This episode is very important, like all episodes, but this one here is probably the topic that we get the most questions about, basic training, or BCT, basic combat training. So we're going to get into a lot of the whole phases. We're going to talk about reception, we're going to talk about red phase, white phase, blue phase, and then graduation. Now, because there's so much content with this topic, we actually broke it into 2 separate episodes. So we got a part 1, which is today, and then part 2 will be our next episode, sharing the following Sunday. Now, before I get into that, there's 2 types of basic training, okay? There's basic combat training, like I mentioned before, which is 9 weeks and 4 days, give or take a couple of days, depending on if that time falls under like a 4-day federal holiday, stuff like that. Or there's also what's called OSUT training, one station unit training. That's what I went through. When I first came in, I was a 19 kilo, which is a tanker, and I was at Fort Knox, and my training at that time was 17 weeks. And what they do is they take your basic training, which is, again, is 9 weeks, and then after you graduate basic training, you go to your advanced individual training, your job skill training, whatever you're going to learn how to do, and they combine it together, and that's your OSUT training. Now, that's for infantry, combat engineer, MPs, tankers, cavalry, scouts, those kind of jobs. There's only about 8 or 9 of those jobs that we actually have OSUT training for. But the rest of the jobs we have, you know, the 141, if you will, are regular basic training. All right, 9 weeks. And those places will be at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, or Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Now, the OSUT training is actually down at Fort Benning, Georgia now. When I mentioned earlier, I went to Fort Knox. We used to have tankers and cavalry scouts go to Fort Knox. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And as we get into it, we're going to show a little footage on each phase to include reception and red, white, and blue. Now today we're going to cover reception, red, and white. And our next episode will cover blue. And we actually have a really unique opportunity to talk to an actual drill sergeant at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. He's a great guy, got some really good conversation going, some really good insight on basic training and the expectations on both sides of soldiers and the drill sergeant, which is very important. You know, some people think that the drill sergeant there is just there to yell at you, and I'm telling you right now, that's so far from the truth. He has a vital role in the Army, and that's to build our soldiers up from civilians to soldiers. The Army values and leadership, confidence, discipline, drill and ceremony, respect, you know, stuff like that. So without further ado, we'll talk about reception. So when you leave from the airport to go to your basic training unit, you're going to get in pretty late, and you'll get on a bus and go to Fort Benning, Fort Sill, Fort Leonard Wood, so on and so forth. And then you'll start your reception that very night. Probably between midnight, maybe 2 in the morning, you'll start in processing. Give them your paperwork, your orders, you know, they'll verify who you are, and you'll start your in process. You'll get a couple hours of sleep, and then you'll get up for that early morning formation where you'll go and get something to eat real quick at the chow hall, which is the dining facility. And then you'll start, you know, day 0, which is between day 0 and day 4. You'll start going through medical, making sure your eyes, ears, and nose are good to go, your teeth. You'll start getting fitted for your uniform, your boots, your physical training gear. You'll go through some briefings on equal opportunity and sexual harassment, sexual assault program, things of that nature. You will start learning some moderate drill and ceremony. The drill sergeants that pick you up there, they'll march you around a little bit here and there, get your hair cut. And no, you do not have to shave it like I have, but it will be buzzed down if you're a male. And you'll learn all this stuff as you go through. It's very, very simple. Everything's direct. It's too easy. So that's reception. And we're going to show a little clip about some of the actual footage of soldiers in processing through the reception process.
It all starts with basic combat training, or BCT. Over the course of 10 weeks, you will learn to overcome any challenge placed before you. The transition from civilian to soldier will transform you both physically and mentally, and will be an experience that you will remember for the rest of your life. Welcome to the U.S. Army, the world's greatest fighting force. The U.S. Army has 4 sites for BCT: Fort Benning, Fort Jackson, Fort Sill, and Fort Leonard Wood. And together with your battle buddies, you will learn the Army's stringent combat standards. Once soldiers arrive at their basic training reception battalion, they will make a final phone call notifying family they've arrived safely. Parents or spouses need not be concerned if you don't hear from your loved one over the 10 weeks of basic training. Family should know that soldiers will be in good hands. You can be assured that your soldier is receiving the best training and care the Army has to offer. Males and females will train together but are housed separately. Reception typically lasts 4 to 7 days and includes administrative preparations such as physical examinations, dental exams, x-rays, optometry exams, blood tests, and immunizations. Be prepared, because there's no smoking, alcohol, no drugs, or junk food during training. If you can't handle that, then you've come to the wrong place. To complete your transition, you will enjoy one of the post's barber shops, where you will be treated to the Army's famed military makeover. At last, you will be issued your Army combat uniform. Once you've processed through reception, you are now ready to get to know your drill sergeants, who are very excited to meet you.
Go! Get off the bus! What are you waiting on? Go! Go! Get off!
The drill sergeants at first, they can come off as very scary. That is their job, is to take you from civilian to a soldier in a short amount of time. They're not here to hurt you, they are here to make you stronger.
You are a risk assessment waiting to happen. Go!
You're having to obey orders and do exactly what they tell you to do it, how to do it, and when to do it. And if you don't do it that way, they will correct you.
Try this again. One more time. What am I?
Drill sergeant.
There you go. Wake up!
Yes, drill sergeant.
On, tail, hurry, run!
You better learn my voice really quick. You can't even do a push-up. If a fly lands on your face and it itches more than anything, you let that fly do whatever it wants to do. You do not slap it off. You do not move. If I tell you something and you hear my voice, you better snap and get right. You understand?
Yes, drill sergeant.
How are you here? You can't do a push-up, 41.
Welcome back. That was some pretty interesting footage. When I went through reception, it was pretty quick. It seems like a lot of standing around at times, but it moves fairly fast. And when you get done with reception, it's what we call your pickup day, when your drill sergeants come to reception to actually pick up that group of soldiers to take them to the barracks. And that's called red phase. It's day one of red phase. Now, during red phase, it's very intense. They're going to throw a lot of scenarios at you. They're going to, be a lot of discipline, because most people coming in don't have, obviously, that military structure. And during red phase, you're going to have some orientations going on, but that's where they really, put down the fundamentals of being a soldier. Emphasize a great deal on physical training, drill and ceremony discipline. You're going to learn a little bit of landmine detection, stuff like that. Some chemical defense against nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, stuff like that. We'll go over the 7 Army core values, which is very important. That's like the foundation of the Army. It's an acronym. It's leadership. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Those are words we live by. So that's very, very important, that red phase. Right, when I went through, it was pretty intense. Again, I went to a combat arms job, but as I was going through, eventually it clicked, and from there on out, I just took off, and it was fantastic. When I first met my drill sergeant, I actually had 2 of them. It wasn't, I don't know, it was a little queasy at first, because it was new, something new in my life. So, and as nature goes, change is not always welcomed or easily adapted to. But once I maybe 3rd weekend, that was it for me. Like, it was awesome. It was fantastic. Drill Sergeant T, I won't give his last name, but Drill Sergeant T taught me a lot of stuff, gave me some motivation that I still tap into this day. But here's some footage on red phase.
Basic training is divided into 3 phases: red, white, and blue. Your training begins in Red Phase, in which soldiers develop basic combat skills with emphasis on equipment familiarization and skill developments such as first aid, physical readiness training, and team building. Highlights include the confidence course and the gas chamber, where soldiers are exposed to CS gas in a controlled environment and are expected to react.
Welcome back. Going through Red Phase, it's quick. You're always doing stuff. And believe it or not, you're getting a lot of sleep, some really good food going through Red Phase. And throughout all the phases, it's like that. You get a lot of sleep, believe it or not. Now, White Phase is a little different. The drill sergeants kind of relax a little bit. They more emphasize on, weapons marksmanship. You'll go on a couple of tactical road marches with a rucksack on to get that exposure and that endurance down. And they'll emphasize more on, wherever that platoon may need to grow a little bit further as a team. Whether it's team cohesion or drill and ceremony, physical training, stuff like that. And now during that White Phase 2, you may actually go out to what we call a field training exercise. It's kind of like a militarized camping trip. We go out into the woods, if you will, and set up our cantonment area and train in real life exercises. Staying up guard posts and setting up areas with concertina wire, stuff like that. So here's some really good footage on White Phase.
During weeks 4 through 6, White Phase, soldiers begin honing their skills with basic rifle marksmanship. Soldiers will also train in combatives and bugle stick tactics, where soldiers are trained to close in on the enemy. Countered by intelligence and common sense, this training teaches soldiers to use their rifle as a melee weapon. The confidence course tests personal courage on elevated obstacles. You will work on your strengths and weaknesses and learn to depend on your battle buddies to complete the course. Also during this phase, soldiers are instructed on tactical foot marches and land navigation, which includes map reading and compass skills.
Welcome back. Again, that was some really good footage of that White Phase during that 9 weeks of basic combat training. Now, just to recap real quick, when you go through OSIT training, when I went through, I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed. We had red, white, blue, and then gold. We used gold because once you got to that gold phase, you were gold in, I should say, to graduate, unless you really messed up and did something that you really shouldn't have done. You were good to graduate. But so those are the phases we're going to go over during this episode. Now, as you're going through basic combat training, I can't emphasize enough on how important it is to have that family support back home. When I was going through, I'd get letters from my mom all the time, a couple from my dad, a couple from some friends at that time, and getting that correspondence. Now, back then, we didn't have Facebook and cell phones so much like we have nowadays. It was letters, postcards, and stuff like that. And during this time frame, you will be allowed to have your cell phone periodically, obviously not all the time, but periodically. And that really serves a purpose, and we'll actually talk about that in part 2 of this episode. But having that correspondence with family and friends is huge, because that's really what you're going to find that gives you that extra momentum to push through any of these challenges and endeavors that you could maybe, contemplate, should I give up? I can't do this. We don't like that word can. I was just talking to a soldier earlier today, and that was the first thing they said is, I can't do this. And I said, that's it. No, yes, you can. And sure enough, they did. It just takes a little bit of motivation, and that's where that drill sergeant comes into play. Again, part 2 will really emphasize on that role of the drill sergeant. So again, family support is huge. Now we're going to go speak with future soldier Kasey Laurey out of Horseheads, New York, and her family, and how much they've supported her during this process of coming through and being the future soldier as she's about to graduate high school here in a few days out of Horseheads, and she's going to ship out to go to basic training here in the next couple weeks. And it's a great family. I mean, I've known them for almost a year and a half now, and so we'll speak with her in a couple moments. Welcome back. Again, I'm Sergeant First Class Mike Warrick of the Army Recruiting Station at Horseheads Arnhem Mall. We have a very unique opportunity today. This is the Laurey family. This is Kasey, one of our future soldiers, her mother Mary and her father Art. Kasey is going to be graduating high school here in a couple weeks, And I'm going to give it a moment for her to introduce herself a little bit and tell you, the audience, about her going into the Army.
Hi, I'm Private Laurey. I'm going to be graduating this June and shipping out for basic training this July.
Awesome. Now let me ask you a couple of questions real quick. Before you came to our office and you made the decision to get to the office, I'm going to get some information, did you think about the Army or the military as an opportunity for you to either pay for college or skill enhancement or stuff like that?
Not really. I was more thinking about going to college, but then I decided to pick Army because I just thought like the opportunities of it would be something good.
Okay, nice, nice. Now, when Kasey made that decision to come down and get some information, did you guys know ahead of time, or you talked about it a little bit? And not only that, but like, what was your take on that? Either Mary, please.
Okay. Well, initially, I did not know she was even getting information about the Army. And so when she came home and said that she had talked with an Army recruiter and that she was seriously considering going into the Army instead of college, initially I was taken aback a little bit, but then I thought, you know, it's a great opportunity to travel, great opportunity to mature a little bit more before she goes to college. But
Sure.
I think that's a plan afterwards.
Sure, absolutely. College benefits too. Huge.
Great.
Now, Art, you being private service, Marine Corps, so you had a little bit of insight on how the process works, some of the benefits, so on and so forth. But what was your take initially when you first heard your baby of the family, if you will? She's the youngest, and you know the rest of your children have gone to college. Some of them are currently still in college. So when you heard Kasey saying, "I'm looking at the Army for my benefits, opportunities, so on and so forth," what was your take?
Actually, I was excited about the opportunity of my daughter going into the military, giving back to her country, because I think every young person should explore that as an option of giving back to their country in some form of service. But Kasey, I've already talked to her. I was kind of partial with being a Marine, influencing in that direction, but she chose the Army, which is a wonderful opportunity. And I think that seeing your stature and how you presented yourself, I says, that's a good role model right there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We tried every endeavor, you know, to uphold to our values in the Army, our leadership values. Now, you be shipping out to go to basic training when again?
July 10th.
July 10th. And where are you going to your basic training at?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay, now it gets hot down at Fort Jackson, so make sure you drink a lot of water, okay? She's very excited, very motivated. So, you know, from the time where you came into the office, you got some information, we set you up with a test, you know, and went through the physical. Now, what about that future soldier training program? You come down every Wednesday, right? And a lot of times we do physical training, sometimes we do like a lecture or a question and answer, stuff like that. What's your take on that future soldier training program?
I think it's very beneficial, and it like motivates you to do physical activity before you go, because like leading up to that week, if you work out, it makes it easier rather than just jumping in on that Wednesday.
Awesome, awesome. Now, since she's enlisted from that date until today, have you guys noticed like a transition, if you will, of maybe, you know, more discipline a little bit, or more maturity, taking life, if you will, a little more serious?
Definitely taking life more serious, as well as more motivation.
Oh, nice.
Motivation to get in the best shape she can get in before she heads off to basic training, so that when she gets there, she not only goes through it, but she goes through it like a champ.
Awesome. Art, do you have any?
I think she seems to be a little bit more structured than her previous, you know, behavior as far as around the house, and seemed to have a plan to be focused.
Awesome.
And goal-oriented, which we tried to gear the kids towards college initially, and if we tried to influence them to go in as perhaps a lieutenant, but she chose the route to go in as an enlisted to potentially pay for her college when she's all done. So we saw that as a great opportunity to reap that benefit from the Armed Forces as well.
Nice, nice. One of their daughters, Kasey, just graduated from the Troopers Academy in New York State. Congratulations to you if you're watching. It's just great seeing that mentality, if you will, just giving back to your community. I'm real big on that. I know when I was younger, not so much. I'm not going to you know, try to church it up, if you will. But now that I've gotten more mature in my age, I'm all about giving back to my community, and it's just fantastic when you see a family like this, not only supporting their daughter, but putting that in all their children, so they go out there and give back to that community. So anybody watching right now who could be sitting on that couch or in the gym, whatever, watching this episode, who may be thinking about getting some information about the Army or the Army Reserves to enhance their opportunities to achieve those future endeavors, what would your advice be to them? They may be teeter-tottering. Should I come down? No, it's not for me. Biggest thing that I try to tell people is, one, you're getting information, and you're going to make a decision no matter what, whether it's college, full-time job, join the military, hopefully it's the Army, but you're going to make a decision, and based on that, you should get all the information that you can on that decision or those options. So people are watching right now, seeing this, what would you want to say to them if they're teeter-tottering? Should I come down to the office or call?
I would definitely say to go down to get the information, because either way, having that, even if it's something that you'll do right out of high school or perhaps later on, it's a good path.
Nice, very good. Same to you, Art and Mary. Anybody or any words of encouragement or guidance once forth? Again, Art, prior service yourself.
I think every young person again should explore the option of giving back to their country, whether it be the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine, because I think it prepares you to go into other jobs like myself, working for the Sheriff's Department for almost 27 years. I think that this would be a wonderful opportunity to open other doors for you.
Absolutely.
So I think you really should consider it.
Absolutely. Mary?
And I think it's a great opportunity that our young people have today, especially those that don't think college is for them or they can't afford college currently. Then this is another avenue to give them something productive to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank you again for coming down. It's fantastic. I appreciate you giving us part of your day and providing this feedback to our audience.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Sergeant.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Always. Again, I'm Sergeant First Class Mike Warrick. Please come to our next episode where we'll be going up hopefully on the location at Fort Drum, where we see some of the soldiers up there at Fort Drum making it happen, some of their training, some of their physical training, so on and so forth. And thank you very much for watching. Again, I am Sergeant First Class Michael Warrick, and strengthen the nation one commitment at a time.
The challenges facing the country never stop. So neither does the U.S. Army. We train, adapt, and get smarter. Every soldier, every unit, every day. Not to keep up with change, but to drive it. Nobody knows what problems tomorrow will bring, but we do know who will solve them.